Sex shops are all over the world, but would you consider working at one for your first job? What about as a means to putting yourself through college so you can pursue your real dreams? Maybe working at an adult shop is your dream. More power to you. This is 2014's Adult World. Spoiler alert, while I might be giving you my opinion on the film, that's no substitute for watching it for yourself. Links to the film are in the description. And for those of you that need to hear this, this is just a movie. All stunts are for the sake of story and shouldn't be attempted on your own. Viewer discretion is advised. We open up on Amy, who's trying to find inspiration for writing her poetry in a room. Her best idea is to go to the kitchen and stick her head in the oven. After finding no inspiration there, she tries a plastic bed in her room, but that doesn't help either. Since we need some context for this, we go back a year earlier to Amy reading to her classmates. Her teacher loves what she says, and Josh goes up next. Josh apparently really loves her words because they end up together that night at his place. He asks her if she's a virgin, and she tells him that she's definitely not. Then Josh uses his eloquent words to talk her out of her clothes. Just then, Amy hears someone hiding in the closet, and she gets up to reveal Josh's friend hiding with a camcorder. Amy grabs the camera and smashes it before running out of the party. Outside, she finds a car with a book of poetry on it, and she reads the workings of Rat Billings. Later, she goes to the stadium to talk to her friend Candace about what happened and to share a reading in the book. Some time passes, and Amy's mother brings her food as she looks out the window for inspiration. In the dining room, Amy talks to her mother about the submissions she's doing for poetry contests, and her dad walks in just in time to hear about how she's a shoo-in for a contest where there's really no other competitor. Her dad takes a moment later to talk about how much faith they have in her poetry career, but they can't afford to fund her dream. He gives her another week, but she's going to have to find a job to fund herself. What follows is a montage of interviews. But as soon as she said she had a degree in poetry, you knew she didn't get anything. That being said, can you actually major in poetry? I thought it was part of a broader degree like English or just a minor. Majoring in poetry feels like self-sabotage. Eventually, Amy finds a single help wanted sign in the middle of downtown, and she heads into a shaded building. She quickly finds out that this is an adult sex toy shop, and the elderly Mary Ann is running things at the moment. Mary Ann asks if she came in about the job, but Amy knocks over a tower of vibrating dildos before running back out to her car. She quickly shakes off the experience and goes back to her dire search for a job. No luck though. After thinking about it some more, she heads back to the shop to tell Mary Ann she's interested. Mary Ann takes her to the back of the office where the owner, Stan, gives her a job. Mary Ann and Stan kiss to celebrate the new hire, and Amy meets Alex, the manager. When Amy gets home, she tells her parents that she got a job and they couldn't be happier. Amy lies about what she does, and she tells them that she works in an underground art magazine. The next day, Amy gets the rundown from Alex about their system, and he sends her off with a happy first day. After that, she heads to a book signing at a local bookstore where Rat Billings is. She rushes to the front of the line, but after coming across as a fanatic, Rat tries to rush out to his car. She chases after him, and she makes herself seem like a crazy stalker. After he wishes her well and steadily creeps out of the parking lot, Amy turns around to find her own car getting jacked at the same time. Somehow, Amy makes her way home, and the next day, she gets to work where she finds a cop is shopping around. She's amazed to find a person of authority would risk coming into a place like this, and Alex has to remind her that there's nothing illegal or wrong about what they do. That evening, Amy goes to clean the bathroom, and through a glory hole in the stall, she spots Rubia going to the bathroom. Of course, Amy has to rush out and tell Alex about what she saw, but she finds that Rubia is giving Alex a haircut. If that wasn't awkward enough, Amy asks about which bus goes to her neighborhood, and Alex mentions that Rubia's bus goes the same way. By the time Rubia gets off the bus, Amy seems a lot more okay and accepting of everything. When Amy gets home, she finds her parents waiting, and they're not happy with how she wasted all the money they gave her on poetry submissions. After being told she needs to stop being a child, Amy does the most childish thing yet. She runs away. Not even well. She hops on a bus and takes it to the last stop before realizing that the bus has a last stop. Was she just going to ride the bus until she died of old age? Amy convinces the bus driver to take her to Rubia's stop, and she heads into the building to explain her situation to Rubia. Rubia welcomes her with open arms, and she even offers Amy some of her medical marijuana. The weed takes immediate effect on Amy, and Rubia loves the fact that she can trust Amy to be brutally honest. So brutally honest that Amy tells her she looks like a cheap hooker. She means that in the best way possible though, and the two of them dance around the apartment. The next day, Amy goes to a protest that Candace is participating in, And Amy realizes just how little Amy's done since they last saw each other. When Amy gets to work, Alex notices that something's off with her, and he asks her what's up. Amy shows him all the rejection letters she's gotten, and he tries to distract her with the sex doll. Alex knows how to really distract a woman. What's really creepy is the voice of the sex doll when it reacts to touch. Ugh, burn it. That night, Amy lies down with Rubia, and she opens up about how she's innocent in the ways of the world and also a virgin. Rubia tells her that she needs to find someone that can show her the ways of the world. The next day, the two of them go out for coffee, and Amy spots Rat Billings. Amy hides behind a bush, but Rubia jacks a double-seated bike to let them follow him home. Amy catches him just before he goes inside, and she's finally able to explain that she just wants him to read her poetry. Now that Rat knows she just wants him to read her work, he doesn't seem so tense, but he still wants her to go away. She tells him that she'll drop her work off later, and he slams the door in her face. That could have gone way worse, so I'd consider that a win. Even though he seems more like a lower local celebrity that only the handful of people that read his work would know, I'd imagine he could have really made her life difficult to this point. When Amy goes to work, Alex gives her first paycheck, and she's amazed at how little she's left with after taxes. At the same time, Rubia tells her that she needs to find new roommates because she can't host guests with Amy there. So, Amy gets a place with Candace and her boyfriend. Later, Amy shows up at Rat's house, and he's amazed that she actually came back. When she presents him with a basket of kiwis and her work, he sees how innocent she really is, and he asks her if she wants to come in. Once they sit down, Rat asks her why she even wants to be a poet. Amy mentions that poetry is her way of externalizing the pain she feels, and she thinks that she could reach a lot of people with similar issues. One thing, why do all aspiring poets assume that poetry has to be about pain and loss? Granted, it's really easy to write about that stuff, but you don't have to be a Debbie Downer to be a poet. I apologize to all Debbies that have to deal with that name. Then, Amy asks him if she could be his protege, and he asks what's in it for him. Eventually, she comes up with the deal of cleaning for him. When Amy gets home that night, she finds out that Candace got published by the first publication she ever sent something to, and now she feels even more like a failure. The next day, Amy goes to Rat's house to clean, and she finds out that he's making an anthology of unknown poets. She sees this as her chance, and she even starts to become preoccupied with her poetry at work instead of working. When Alex finally gets her attention, he shows her a magazine that's asking for sexual experience entries, but she doesn't want to peddle porn. After sitting in on an exhilarating lecture by Rat, Amy goes home and smokes it up with everyone. And by everyone, I mean all three people she knows are all of a sudden hanging out and smoking. Candace, Alex, and Rubia are all hanging out with Amy. When that happened, I have no idea. Candace even comments on how diverse Amy's friends are, and she starts hitting on Alex. So Amy heads to her room with a bottle of Jack and looks up that entry request for erotica. She uses her fantasies about Alex as inspiration for her story, but she's interrupted when Alex knocks on the door. He tries to talk to Amy some, but Candace shows back up and steals him away. Next, Rubia storms into her room, and she notices Amy's sour mood. So she gives her clothes and sends her to Rat's house. Her performance here is out of this world. Why Rat isn't immediately captivated by her charm, I'll never know. You have to watch it to really believe it. She keeps twitching in what she thinks is a sexy fashion, but I don't really think any twitching of that sort could be considered sexy. Twitching should just not be a go-to move. Amy tells Rat that she wants him to deflower her, but he points out that he doesn't believe any bit of what she's saying. Now that Amy's tired of being rejected left and right, she finally reads one of her poems to Rat, and she asks him if he thinks she can be a poet. Before he can answer, the alcohol really gets to her, and she throws up all over his floor. After that, we cut to the next day when Amy goes to work, and Alex asks her what happened the night before. Amy tells him that she might not recover from her travels the night before, but Alex tells her that he left right after she did last night. Just then, some girls come in that recognize Amy, and she tries to hide. It doesn't work though. After the girl comes over, she asks Amy how it feels to work in a dirty porn video store, and Amy decides to storm out and go to the one place she needs to be. After apologizing for the night before, she tells Rat that she has to know what he thinks of her poems. And he admits that he thinks they are very uniquely her. When she finds out that he's going to put one of them in the anthology he's working on, she thanks him over and over and tells him that this is the best day of her life. As time goes on, Amy continues to work at the video store, and she continues writing now that she's gotten confirmation that her writing isn't terrible. One night, Alex shows up at work to see that a guy's stealing a lot of stuff from right under Amy's nose, and he finally tells her that she can't keep working there since she won't take it seriously. The next day, Amy goes to Rubia's house, and she can see that Amy misses Alex. Also, do friends just come over and shave other friends' legs? That feels oddly personal and not like something that you really need a friend for. After realizing that Ruby is right, Amy heads back to the store to ask Alex for her job back, and it doesn't take much time for Alex to let her back. After that, Amy meets up with her mother for lunch, and she tries to convince Amy to let her throw a birthday party for her. Amy gives her a list of cake requirements, and we flash forward to her birthday where Amy's friends show up. Even Rat shows up with a friend. Amy's mother thanks Rat for giving Amy a chance, and Rubia plays ball with Amy's father. Meanwhile, Alex gives Amy her present, and afterwards, Rat leaves just before Amy opens his present. It turns out that the book of poems he put her poem in is actually an anthology of horrible poems. Oh, that's pretty bad. She knows where he lives. I'd be hiding right now. Rat, on the other hand, greets her with open arms. Amy's fit here is amazing. I don't know how Rat keeps a straight face through it all. Luckily for Amy, Alex shows up and takes her away. Not before she steals Rat's doodle napkins. I can understand the importance of doodle napkins. Some of your best ideas will be scribbled on the most random crap. Alex takes Amy to his apartment, and she sees that he's actually a really talented artist. She thinks that he should show off his talent to the world, but he looks at his art as something that's more for himself. After hearing this, Amy thanks him for the ride, but she heads home for the night. And now we've come full circle to the beginning scene with her head in a plastic bag. The next day, she shows up at Rat's house, and she asks him why he had to give her the truth in such a harsh way. He tells her that she isn't actually bad. She's not anything yet. He tells her to go live her life and get heartbroken, get arrested. Just go live before she comes back. So Amy goes to Alex's apartment to spend some time with him, and of course, it ends exactly how it should at this point. When they're done doing their thing, Amy lies there and thinks of poetry about Alex until her phone goes off. She answers the call to find out that the porn magazine actually liked her submission, and they're going to publish her in the next issue. To celebrate, Alex takes her to an underground art party, and Rubia shows up to support her as well. Over the next few days, Amy continues to write, and she pulls out Rat's book to laugh about it. Then the credits roll. This one was a joy to watch. At moments it was all over, but then it got really grounded to deliver its message. This is definitely a good movie for anyone that thinks they aren't where they're supposed to be with their dreams. Give it a shot. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more like this one. Comment what you think I should watch next, and I'll see you in the next video.